sometimes we're a work in progress. I believe that a lot of times God puts us into situations that we don't feel comfortable in because he wants to allow himself to have the glory. Our God is about his own glory. God loves to be glorified. So when he puts you into a situation like that, that you know that you didn't put yourself into, then he gets the glory. Because why? Because you depend on him to stay in that particular situation. For instance, if you have a job that you may not have the exact skill set for, I'll give you a good example of someone who may have a job in a bank that requires a finance degree, but you've been there and you learned from the ground up and you learn how to do the different things, you learn how to balance the books and count the money, and you become very proficient at it. But this present day and this present job said, well, you know what, this job should belong to somebody with a college degree. And in your situation, and you sit and you work in sometimes fear that, you know, well, when they downsize, I'm probably going to be the first to go because technically I'm not really qualified for this job. I don't have the certification or I don't have the degree that's necessary. But then one day your employer walks up to you and says, Sister Rosie, you've been doing such a great job here, and we really love your attitude and how you work here in this particular place, and we want to be able to send you back to school so that you can complete your degree so that you can have this job on a permanent basis. So that's the kind of God we serve. He puts us in positions sometimes that we really don't deserve, but he makes way and makes provision for us to get into those positions. Number one, to be able to bless the kingdom with our finances. Because when we get those finances back, see, God knows he's not crazy. He knows that we need those finances to be able to help the kingdom to perpetuate to the next level. So he puts people of God, sometimes we're not qualified, into certain positions. So that when we're in those positions, number one, we depend on him. Number two, he's put us in a way that we can also help the kingdom because we know that without him, we'll surely be nothing. You see many times that people get into certain jobs or certain situations, and when they get into those jobs and those situations, then they think they have arrived and they forget about God, and somehow God just allows those jobs to be blowed on and things to come up or improprieties come up or things on their resume didn't quite check out. So when we out there as a field agent, we're out here, we're working, we're meeting God's, the demands that God has given us, and we're doing our best. But as a field agent, sometimes you get into situations that are not becoming of you. Sometimes you find yourself on the other side of the fence, so to speak. And in the book of James, it said that a man with a double mind is what? Unstable in all his ways. And if you're out there as a field agent and you get into a situation that's not becoming of you, you can somehow, sometimes, be persuaded. Be persuaded. What do you mean by be persuaded? Well, I know where I stand. I'm going to go to this bar with my friend, and I don't have a problem with alcohol, so at least I don't think. And I'm going to go hang out with them because, you know, we socially drink. That's what we do in math education where I'm at. We socially drink. I go to a conference. My boss just invited me to a conference. Hopefully I get to go to San Diego in the spring. When they go, yeah, they go. We go and do the little things that we do at the conference, but then there's the nightcap. That's really when the work is done, when they're socially drinking wine and cheese. Come on, y'all. Y'all know about this. So when you're in those kind of situations, then you putting yourself into temptation if that has already been our area for you. So remember I said earlier, every agent has their own calling. If alcohol was a problem for you before, guess what? Yes, by the covering of God, that alcohol is not a problem for you now. But if you put yourself in the way long enough, you can allow it to come back up. You don't catch a cold all at one time. A cold is what? Gradually over time. One day you'll wake up, oh, my neck doesn't feel right, and you just count it to maybe I slept wrong on my neck, right? Then it may come to another situation, then you wake up and say, oh, well, now my neck is hurting, or my elbow is hurting too. I guess it's my arthritis. And we keep finding different ways and different things to try to put it on because we don't want to face the truth. But we have slowly, this virus is in my body, and it's slowly taking over to become something that I don't want drastically to happen to my body. It's my immune system giving me these warning signs of things that are about to come. And if I ignore them long enough, then what? This cold perpetuates to a point that now it's consumed my whole body, and now I'm being able to visually see and physically feel the effects of that cold. And double agent, see, Judas was in the same situation. Think about it. Judas was a disciple. He was one of the 12. He was one of the 12. It wasn't now one of us, but it was he was in there. Now you think, well, God, of course he had the ultimate plan, but just thinking, in your own human mind, would you think he picked them because he knew he was going to do that? It wouldn't have made sense. So he was there with them all the time, but something happened. And if you read on, this story is told, many more times throughout the Gospels. And as you read in some of the Gospels, they give a little bit different interpretation of it because of their background. Luke being a physician, he taught it one way in more detail, and Matthew being more of a tax collector, he just told it this way. But they all pretty much came up with the same story, but they just all told it from their point of view, right? Just like we saw an accident, and if I saw it from the left side, you saw it from the right side, we all come to a conclusion that, it hit the car. The car hit this car or whatever, but how I really saw it is really based on my perception, how I view things, and how I am as a person. I make my own decisions based off my background, whether we want to come to terms with that or not. Some of the decisions I make are culturally made decisions, whether we come to terms with that or not. And some of them are not rational decisions. They're made with heart decisions, whether we want to come to terms with that or not. So even transferring back over as an agent, then you're putting yourself in these certain situations, and what happens over time, you unawarely start working for the other team and don't even know it. And that's the thing. I don't believe that Judas awarely wanted to betray Jesus. If he knew they was going to kill him, I don't think he would have did that. Because obviously we saw the end result of that. What did he do? He killed himself. So awarely, he didn't want to do that, but he didn't know that was what that was going to lead to, right? It's the same thing with us being agents. When we out here, we're trying to minister to other people. We're trying to minister to our friends and people of other backgrounds. And sometimes we sneak ourselves into this situation, and we find ourselves what we call straddling the fence. And the next thing I know, I'm a double agent. Let me tell you what the definition of a double agent is. A double agent is a counterintelligence term for someone who pretends to spy on a target organization on behalf of a controlling organization, but in fact is loyal to the target organization. A double agent may be agents of the target organization who infiltrate the controlling organization, or may be previously loyal agents of the controlling organization. See, this thing is going back and forth, back and forth. Who have been captured and turned by the target. The threat of execution is the most common method of turning a captured agent into a double agent. Think about that. Someone who pretends, I'm pretending I'm going to, well, you know what, Billy, I know I don't want to offend him, so I'm going to hang out with you here and put myself in this situation. And then I find out over time that I'm certain, you know what, I like hanging out with Billy more than I like hanging out with the people at the church. The people at the church end up starting to bore me. They're not exciting enough. They don't want to do anything. They're a bunch of fuddy-duddies. Why don't they do something exciting? All they want to do is go to church. Well, it's not a sin for us to go bowling every now and then. But then you start associating with those different types of people. And I'm not saying just associate with everybody, but you have to watch your connections and how long you're around them. I love fish, and I've been on this fish thing, and I've been telling my wife, I'm a pescatarian. I don't eat nothing but fish, right? So that's how I'm trying to keep my weight down from when I fasted. And she was cooking this fish for me the other day, and it was like, well, it doesn't matter. As soon as you walk into the house, that's what you're going to smell. And you didn't have to come to my house that day to eat fish. And it was not fried. I'm trying to eat better. We grilled it. But if you stayed in my house long enough, you done went back to your home, and somebody would be like, well, where did you go eat fish at? Right or wrong? They asking you, where did you eat fish? And you didn't even eat a fish. You were just around somebody who did eat a fish. And that's very much the same thing in the body of Christ. If that can happen physically that quick, you wouldn't even have to be in the house that long for that to happen. Not even that long. If it can happen that quick, you just imagine what else could happen. I remember myself, and I can talk about myself.